Hi everyone, welcome to Gajah Gallery, and here today we have Siew Kee Liong with us, who is presenting a solo presentation here at the gallery titled Objects 2. It's a very special presentation featuring works which he first presented in Singapore way back in 1993 at the Fifth Passage Gallery at Parkway Parade. So joining us today is none other than the artist himself, Kee Liong. And so Kee Liong, would you like to introduce yourself to the audiences?
Hi, I'm Kee Liong. I'm a visual artist. My area of focus is in photography and digital art.
Right. Thank you, Kee Liong. So, some of the first questions, I guess, we have about the installation present today. Why don't you share with us a little bit about, the starting point when you first made these artworks, 30 years ago?
Okay, the subject matter, I think, is obvious. It's objects, right? I was actually quite into found object during that time, and then I want to be a little bit more personal, so I try to add a bit more of my personal feelings, and I start to collect small items. I think it all started from one of the piece behind us, which is at the corner there, the lens. So that was actually by accident when I was really trying to repair or service my large format projector for my black and white printing, right? Projector, you got easel here, you print down, right? So I tried to clean the lens, and then by accident, the one of the lens elements sort of like slip and then fall, and then you just break, and then that's how it get. And then I was a bit horrified because this like expensive lenses, and I wasn't sure whether should I throw it away. And then I look at the pieces, try to put it together. It looks kind of nice, and then got some kind of nice texture, light reflecting out. So I thought, wow, interesting. And then that's how I tried to collect it. And then the idea of trying to, of course, the idea of fun object is there. So I want to sort of put this into memory. So I just thought maybe I should take a photograph of it and then keep it in my memory. And that's how the first piece started there. And then it took a while for me to collect other objects, like the glove, the paintbrush that I use, and other things. Yeah.
So how do you come about these objects? Aside from the very first one, what attracts you to these particular items in particular?
Yes, I think the quality that I'm looking for, right? It's not just an object. It must speak to me in the sense that I have to be involved in it. In the sense that they are things that I use, and I use them for various purposes, and I sort of cherish that idea. Like, this is the tool I use, right? I shouldn't just throw it away. I thought it's good to remember what I've done, or how it assists me. That's why that was the idea of try to keeping them.
I think one of the most unique approaches that you have to photography, especially if one was to put themselves, 30 years ago in the early 1990s when you first presented these images, is your mode of presenting them differs from how a conventional photographic exhibition would look like. I guess in many ways, the works behind us, they transcend photography alone to become mixed media installations because of these structures that you build to support the images that to essentially frame those particular images in. You have a penchant for using construction materials, and I understand that some of the works in the original series, beyond using plywood itself, you use items such as sheetrock as the backing for your images. So what led you to employ these sort of construction materials in presenting your images?
Yeah, that is, I think that was actually a very big question during that time, because I was trying to produce my art right now. I wasn't sure what is my angle that I want to use, or how do I do it, right? And then the reason of using all this material is because this is what I know. And I think as an artist, you want to get inspiration from somewhere. And I thought that somewhere, for me, right, would be something that's in my childhood, things that I do in the childhood. And my mentor during the university said that, I think that would be your unique you, how you play in the childhood, right? You should be how you play now as an artist. So I think, oh, I'm going to work with this kind of material. And during my time, right, when we don't have computer games, we only got toys, which is like wooden blocks and things. So my grandfather is a carpenter, and my dad is a marine engineer. So one of them is doing wood, and one of them is doing metal and things. So I'm really good in that kind of things, industrial tools and things. And I recall that's how during school time I go to my grandfather's workshop, and then I will just imitate him. He's building a chair, right? So I will pick up wood and then try to carve something looks like a board, because my dad is a marine engineer. So that was the fun thing to do, And I thought when I'm doing that, when I'm doing that, all this industrial material, right, it's bringing me closer to my childhood and working with wood, right? Wood has a unique smell that only wood has a smell. So to me, it made me alive when I smell the wood and how to put them together, saw them and things. I think that's basically how I.
It's very nice how your choice of materials, touches on so many aspects of your family history as well, and one can also really see that in how you've chosen to present these images, because the wood is very, very clearly there, but also what you use to secure all of these panels, also the nuts and bolts, which I'm sure a marine engineer would not be. It's not uncommon for a marine engineer to see. You also mentioned that the starting point for this was in part during your university education, and you were educated abroad, right? And it was also the time when you first started looking at the I-Ching, which is also one of the sources of inspirations for the works that are being presented here. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I believe everybody went through different stages of their life. Right? You are not going to be happy all the time. So there was one time when I was young, right, and then before 20, I was actually a bit lost, a bit depressed. Same question that every youth will ask: why am I here and what I'm doing here? So I was a bit lost, and I started to think that I might be able to find some inner peace in some text that I read. Then I tried to read into Zen, but then I thought Zen it's interesting, but it's not exactly what I want. Then I looked into I-Ching, right? And then I-Ching has 64 passages, and I just skimmed through, then I looked at number 59, which is quite interesting. It talk about dissolution, about how you're going to dissolve, and how you're going to die one day, everybody. And then one of the scholar interpret that as when we dissolve into small, actually we are more powerful. So I thought maybe this life, you're here, you're going to live life, and you're going to go to the next stage, whatever. But that actually put me in a calm, and I sort of said, okay, why am I worried? I'm going to die one day, right? So that was the stage that I start to get focused on what I'm going to do,
right?
Which actually started then. I start to think about how I'm going to States to study what I love to do and things like that.
Right. And this topic of dissolution is also a running thread in a lot of the works that you have done. The idea that every object, every being also has a certain ephemerality and impermanence in the world. I think that's manifests very apparently in some of these images, because they have essentially their objects will essentially come to the end of their use cycle, and that idea that things come to the end of their use suggests the passage of time itself. And since its first presentation 30 years ago, it's been quite a fair bit of time that has passed. So returning to these body of images again, representing them, do you think that they have taken on a different nuance?
I believe it does a little bit, because the four pieces behind us is actually a photo installation. Then that the installation part basically you change according to the place you exhibit. If you look at the picture I took when I was in 5th passage, 1993, right? It's different ambience. it's a bit darker ambience in fact, but this is a more pristine, more cleaner ambience. So I thought it has its own life lah. It's here has own life here. And I have the second series, which is the Object 2 series. That is also in my mind when I started my first series, in 1993. I think to me or to them, whatever. I think I owe it to them that I have to display them and give it a closure to this series 1 and 2, and so I can move on to my next project.
Right, and at the same time, I think that it is absolutely lovely how, as an artist, right, beyond working with the camera as well, you also work with printers. You print a lot of your own images, as much as these are not an example of those. Materiality seems to be one of the forefront concerns, and for this representation, you had actually reprinted a lot of these old images using modern technologies. You went to a pretty advanced printing shop, as far as I know, to get these images produced. So comparing the printing technologies available to you today compared to 30 years ago, do you think that print quality lends a different kind of experience of the images that you create?
I think technology will bring us better things. Of course, I would say the image quality is better, but to me, I think I still treasure my print that I made 30 years ago.
And they still exist.
Yeah,
we also have them here at the gallery.
And the
if
process
anybody's interested in seeing them.
is totally different. But this one, I go to a printer. They print it by inkjet printing. The old print I make is actually exposure by exposure.
Right.
And when you do it, you don't see it there. You need to go through a chemical developer and you stop out and you see it there, and then you not be able to do it again. So you invest a lot of hours into making one print.
Yeah.
One large print is not. It takes me a whole night to print it. And when there's time invested in that, you as an artist you felt more than like this one. To me, it has that you don't have that immediate feelings. So I think if you ask me, I'll say I will. Of course, I love the print more than the photo. I did more than the print here, because that's my time spent there.
Right.
And I feel you have to actually do it on your hand to manipulate the things.
Right.
Yeah. And of course, technology we cannot ignore. Then we have to move on. I mean, it's different phases, different kind of art, different aesthetic. So and we have to change the way we look at printing.
So speaking on a broader level, about these processes itself, what do you think that means for photographers other than yourselves when it comes to approaching their works? That the difference in time spent in the creation of them is very, very significant.
I would think you have to. This digital art is digital art. I mean, you've got traditional photography. People are still doing traditional photography now.
Of course.
People, they do the cold plate and then they can do wet plate they're doing now. So I think we have to take it as different types of photography.
Yep.
Like you got acrylic, you got paint. I mean, it's two different things, different medium, different things. So I think they will coexist. Just that it'll be more accessible for people with the latest technology, inkjet printing, as compared to the traditional black and white developing, which is a bit more technical, and you need a bit more characters to do it. I think it's the end is the same. You're creating images that artists try to tell the audience.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think as we come towards the close of our conversation today, what do you hope for audiences to experience and take away when they come and visit the Objects 2 exhibition?
Okay, I think I would say try to live life as simple as it is, and try to find inner peace in you, and then try to force an issue.
All right. Thank you so much, Kee Liong.
Yes.
And so for all of the audiences who have tuned in for this conversation at home, be sure to check out the Objects 2 exhibition that's happening here at Gajah Gallery. It runs until the 22nd of May. So we'll see you at the gallery.